morning. It is a common misconception that the Christian faith is a religion concerned with teaching us how we should live. You can get that out of the Christian faith, but that is not what it is about. Christ came rather to teach us not how to live, but how to die. We don't like this. We rebel against this. We look at our children and we think, that is why I'm bringing them to church? What a terrible thing. We may think it's not fair. We may think it's not nice. But all of these objections we make are distractions because we know that this is inescapable reality for us. It is not as though Christ comes to us perfect, happy, peaceful, immortal beings and says, I am going to teach you how to die. He comes to us rather broken, fallen, sinful, inescapably mortal. And he says to us, follow me. Take up your cross. Leave everything. Learn from me how to die. And once you have learned this, then, he says, I will teach you how to live. I would ask you to think about the things you have done in the course of the last week. The things that have worried you, that have troubled you, that have kept you awake at night. The things you have done that you're proud of, the things you have done that you are ashamed of. Which of these that becomes so critical for us, we think, which of these will sustain us in the face of death? The reality is most of us spend our lives doing things that do not substantially matter. They are distractions from the reality we do not want to contemplate. And we struggle to make the church fit as a part of that life we think we deserve, that life we think we ought to be able to live. And we have it backwards. Christ did not come to give us the fuller life. He came to teach us how to die, and then to raise us up again, to resurrect us, to transform us, to heal us. But we don't like the first part. So we try to take the second part and skip the whole death thing. It's human. It's natural. It makes perfect sense. It just doesn't work. And every one of us, as we grow, as we encounter more of the broken reality of the world, comes to understand this truth. We cannot escape the death of the world. But if we follow Christ, if we take up the cross, then that death that we cannot escape becomes for us the gateway to everlasting life. It becomes the means by which we are united with Christ, because in that brokenness, He raises us up. He heals us. He gives us peace that we cannot understand. Joy, even in the face of sorrow. and life in place of death. On this Sunday, we remember all the saints, not just those who are unnamed and unknown, but all those who in their lives and in their deaths have held fast to the hope and the joy of the Lord. Those who have understood the truth of the gospel, who have taken up the cross and followed Christ, and have received already the first fruits of everlasting life. As we stand here in the church, in the midst of our busy summers, in the midst of our lives which, thank God, are for the most part filled with joy, filled with life, and filled with love, let us not mistake the point. The call to become saints is not just for some few, the elite of the church. It is not just for those who lived in the past, not just for those who live in other places with more dirt. It is for us. We are called to become saints. We are called to understand that Christ's call to us is not to some other reality than the one in which we live. He does not call us to give up a life that actually substantially exists and embrace death. He calls us to take up the cross of this death-filled life and follow him, and to find the everlasting life that he gives to us. This does not mean that all of us need to immediately stop doing the things that give us joy. It does not mean we have to send our children off to boarding school or orphanages, shut our parents up far away, and run off to the desert to be monks. It does not mean we are not allowed to rest, that we should not have the barbecues and take the vacations. It means that we need to change the way in which we do these things. We need to recognize that the joys, the peace, the happiness, the safety we experience is a gift, not a right. It may be taken from us at any time. We enjoy it as the gift of God. We do not cling to it. We do not grasp it. We do not possess it. And in that way, living the blessed life that we have received, we also pray. We also fast. We also give alms and aid the poor. We also spend our days in the church practicing how to die, knowing that the day of suffering will come, building the habits of faith, of trust that unite us to God and give us a foundation, not only when things are good, but when things are bad, so that we know where we stand and who sustains us. We take from the church the lessons of the Lord, and we learn how to die, even in the midst of our life, so that when death comes, when suffering overwhelms us, we find the life of Christ undimmed, blazing forth in the face of the darkness of death. This is what it means to be Christians. We follow Christ at all times, when life is good and when life is bad. And we learn from him how to die, so that dying we may live. Please stand. We will continue the liturgy.